The movie that dares ask the question, what if an Agatha Christie novel was adapted by Wes Anderson? Alright, hey guys, so it's gonna mostly solo reviews this week. I'm trying to keep myself well balanced in the light because my lights are out of battery, so I'm kind of improvising here. So yeah, this is I think it's called See How They Run, which is the newest whodunit movie starring Sam Rockwell and the lovely woman from Pretty Woman that I always forget the name of, and mostly because I can never pronounce it. I'm gonna look it up later, but she's in it too, and she's very, very good. So this is this movie that wears its inspiration on its sleeves. It's directed by I think it's what's his name, Tim George. I'm really bad with names tonight, and it's not gonna get better, and I know it's not gonna get better. Tom George. I was actually close. Tom George, who, as far as I can tell, this looks like his first feature-length movie. He's mostly done TV up to this point. So. At least since 2009, evidently. Hold on, I'm trying to get my shit together here. And I'm not succeeding. It's not going great. Yeah, it's mostly just me today because the simple answer is a lot of movies came out this week. Everyone's just busy. And there's a security guard that's got past me. Either way, I'm just trying to get this stuff done as much as I can because 4 movies came out this week and I already feel bad because I way behind on shit as it is, and I want to fall any more behind. So, yeah, I figured, fuck it, let's just pull the pin, and I will go see this Solo. And who the fuck is the name of this actress? God, do I even try to pronounce that? Saoirse Ronan? Her. I'm gonna call her Constable because that's her character in the movie. So yeah, this movie is pretty much a love letter to Agatha Christie style detective whodunits, which is one of my personal favorite genre films. I feel just doesn't get a lot of credit these days. And one of the things I remember walking out Knives Out saying is, I hope this inspires more of them. And I feel like this is very much a reaction to the success of Knives Out because it feels very much in the same vein. It, of course, is played like a comedy, but it's directed like it's a Wes Anderson film. The stylistic influences are clearly there and present the entire time. I got plenty of good laughs on this. The performances are all just really chewing the scenery with all of it, and it's fucking great. Sam Rockwell plays the inspector on the case, and he has this great, just kind of aloof, kind of doofus persona going on, but it's never overplayed. It's actually kind of low key. Just looks like he's just kind of over it for a good chunk of the time. Meanwhile, the constable is goddamn carrying the show a good chunk of the film. No matter what she's in, I know I'm butchering her name, but I love that actress. No matter what she's in, she's phenomenal in it. And I feel like she picks her projects very carefully, so it's whenever she's in something, I always get excited. But she's also plays wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, super attention to detail. Well, a constable who just wants to be a detective and do all these prove herself to the inspector, yada yada yada. And both her and Sam Rockwell bounce well off each other. The mystery is pretty good. The mystery itself is pretty good. I was kept guessing. I'm sure other people smarter than me probably figured out the actual whodunit and how everything was going to end. Although I'll get into that later. I don't want to spoil this right now, but just a basic summary of the plot. I was a little worried at first because this movie does have a lot of meta elements, which I'm usually pretty okay with. I enjoy meta humor, but this one kind of starts off as just a wee bit pretentious, which is intentional. But Adrian Brody, who plays this American director who's going to adapt this stage play called Mousetrap into a feature-length film, that's kind of the whole movie revolves around. So he's talking about yeah, it's a whodunit, you know the formula by now, here's how it works, here's how the twist happens, here's how the reveal happens, yada yada yada, and the most unlikable character is usually the one that gets killed off first. So of course Adrian Brody dies first. I don't think I'm giving away too much, that's pretty telegraphed right from the get-go, but it did kind of, it's oh god, is this gonna be a whodunit that's ashamed that's a whodunit, and it's gonna act like it's smarter than its genre or smarter than whatever material it may be based off? And it's not, for the most part. There are some parts I kind of dabble in that a little bit, where I think it's being a little more. It thinks it's being a little bit more clever than it is, but for the most part, it works. And a lot of the reason why it works is because it's just so fucking charming. From beginning to end, like, Tom George does a really good job of kind of making the, I know I keep dropping Wes Anderson's name, but it really is so similar to it that's kind of hard to avoid the comparison. But he does a really good job of adapting his style of directing to this genre, to the point where it kind of feels seamlessly woven together, and all the actors are just acting their little minds off, and just these over-the-top, kind of absurdist characters, and everyone's just having a blast with the material. I think the best way to describe Sam Rockwell's Constable is, if you've played Disco Elysium, he's basically the Constable from that, whereas, like, he's clearly a good detective, but he's also kind of a moron, and just unconventional, and just a little off. Now, granted, Disco Elysium, it depends entirely what class you chose for it, but my constable was like this. My detective in Disco Elysium was like this, to the point where I'm like, you know, if they ever do adapt that into a movie or TV, so I want no one else but Sam Rockwell to play that part, because I think it'd be fucking perfect. But yeah, so, like, right down from, like, the way the angles are shot, the lighting is done, like, cinematography, everything about this really does feel like it, despite the fact that it is saying, like, yeah, this is a whodunit, you know where this is essentially going, and yada, yada, yada. It's still, like, it still feels like it loves the genre. It still feels like it's having a great time with it. And yeah, I had a blast watching it, and I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give anything away, because, again, it's a whodunit. I feel like some of the charm is lost, even if you go and if I ever go into spoilers about what happens and who gets involved in what and how the relationships all play together. But let it just be said that I'd say, like, the biggest criticism I have against this movie is that some of the meta elements do kind of get in your face about it. Some more clever than others, and not all the meta jokes work, but it's still got a few good laughs out of me. It's a very dry kind of humor. Like, it's not necessarily in your face. Some of the best jokes in the movie aren't even, like, any spoken line. It's just how characters interact with each other non-verbally. And that goes, again, to the credit of all the actors involved, who are just just everyone's chewing the scenery in their own unique way, and it never stops being entertaining. But since it is such an open love letter to whodunits and that style of storytelling, that unless, like, if you're not a fan of this, you're not gonna like it. I think that's probably the best way to put it. That being said, I got a bunch of big laughs out of it. The guy next to me got a lot of laughs out of it. And I really think this movie's biggest flaw is that it's just thinks it's more mostly in the meta elements, I feel like, are the movie's weakest point, especially when they kind of comes down and the movie ends, because there are a few parts in, like, that telegraphs it pretty loudly. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but the minute they kind of started to suggest it, I knew immediately what was going to happen. Which, like, again, it's the only movie that kind of pokes fun of too, which is it's like, yeah, but this is a whodunit, you know, it's gonna end like one of three different ways, and figuring out, like, how things are gonna end, how all the pieces tie together, or who connects to what, or what's gonna, like, what ties back into what, is part of the fun. And, like, that's what you watch these movies for. So, like, from that perspective, I can see that even if they do seem a little on the nose about it, it can still be entertaining in its own right. I did appreciate some of the poking fun at one of my least... This is something I will spoil, just so, like, because this is a plot twist that I hate in whodunit movies, because it feels like Murder on the Orient Express popularized it, which is another Agatha Christie book, which, again, I can't even, like, say, like, oh, it seems like it's inspired by Agatha Christie. No, it's inspired by Agatha Christie. They name drop her many, many times throughout the film, because it takes place in the 1950s. So, yeah, like, this is clearly inspired by Agatha Christie novels, to the point where, like, I did appreciate, like, they kind of what's what I'm looking for? Not outlasted. God, I'm doing such a brain fart today. This is what happens when I do reviews by myself, and I feel like I have this exact monologue every time I do one of these reviews solo, and I'm realizing now, this is something I learned very recently, a bit of a personal note, is because I was just diagnosed with ADHD a few weeks ago, which suddenly, looking back at my entire 10 years of making content, suddenly makes a lot of things make sense, including why I can never just stay on track on any of these goddamn videos, including right now. Right now I'm going to monologue, and there's a car behind me. It has really shiny lights. Case in point. I still can't think of the fucking word. When they eliminate the possibility for my least favorite twist in whodunits, which is, oh, everyone was involved, which is something I feel like was novel when Murder in the Orient Express did it. It is, I'm guessing, I don't know. But it's since been so overused that nowadays it feels like a cheap cop-out to not reward audiences for figuring out the actual culprit. It's like, oh, none of you were wrong. All of you were technically right, which to me is just bullshit. I hate that. I think that is such a disappointing twist, because exactly what it says. It feels like it doesn't reward the audience for, like, the most fun part about whodunit movies, which is trying to figure out who did it. But if everyone did it, then I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess all those clues were just kind of pointless, because it turns out that, like, again, everyone did it, so it never really mattered. Nothing ruled out. Ruled out! That's the goddamn phrase I was looking for. Anyway. What was I talking about? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, this one doesn't do that. There is a single culprit. There are definitely clues that point you in the right direction. A lot of it's foreshadowed just by how it sets up some meta commentary down the way. But I still enjoyed it when we got there. I don't really have a lot else to say without going into spoilers, other than I had a good time watching it. I would watch it again. I would show it to other people, because, like, these are the kind of movies that my grandma would show me when I was a kid, and I fell in love with them. And it feels like we just don't get them very often, if at all. Like I said, that's starting to change a little bit. Like the Knives Out sequel also comes out in a couple months, which I'm really excited for. And I feel like there's something else came out along the way, like Death and Nile, I guess, if we have to count that one. But, you know, it's still technically whodunit, even though it's, like, not the greatest one. But anyway. So, like, if you enjoy good mystery movies or good mystery novels or anything that really does kind of have those kind of fun, call them cliches, those fun cliches with fun characters and really good actors who know how to really play this up and have a great time doing it, then you'll probably get a kick out of this movie. I know I had a great time watching it. I don't know if I put it on my top 10 list, but I know that for an hour and a half of my time, I got exactly what I wanted out of it. So, I think it's all I really have to say for this one. Tomorrow I'm seeing The Woman King, which is going to be like an hour longer than this, so that's going to be interesting. And then after that, oh God, there's so much. I'll figure it out. But at the very least, I'll get those two done. So, I think it's all I really have to say about this. Make of what you will, guys. I will see you tomorrow with The Woman King. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.